Welcome back to our confirmation study on the Ten Commandments. This week we're looking at actually two commandments. We're looking at the second commandment and the eighth commandment. The second commandment is, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. And the eighth commandment is, you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. And at face value, at first look, these don't really look that related. One's talking about the name of God, and it's in the first table of the commandments. The other one's the second table, how we relate to other people. And it's talking about the words that we say against our neighbors. But there's one word that connects these two, and I think makes it valuable for us to learn these at the same time. And it's the word reputation. Reputation is what links these two commandments together. In that it's not just misusing the name of the Lord. Name also points to reputation, not just exclaiming God's name in vain, but also His name, His reputation. What has He done? Of not misusing that, of keeping that in the proper context. And when we look at the reputation of God, that actually then informs us as to why we should honor and keep His name holy. And then as we look at our neighbor is, right, how does his reputation, how does that impact my life? And ultimately, how does it impact the way that I live this out? And so first we have to deal with it, this second commandment, looking at God's reputation. For our purposes today, we look at reputation being three qualities. Reputation is your identity. Who are you? Your deeds, what have you done? And your character. What kind of a person are you? Where are your values? What do you think is important? And that as we look at God, if we dig into these three aspects of His reputation, of who He is, of His name, it's very telling for us today as to how we should treat God, as to what our relationship is supposed to be. So we look at essentially all this boils down to one question is, what has God done for you? What has God done for you? What is His reputation? His reputation is that He's done everything for you. He's done absolutely everything. He's created you. He has formed you. He has redeemed you. He has called you by name. He has given you a purpose. He has given you gifts. He has given you meaning, purpose, identity, value. He's given you a place in eternity. He's given you your very life. What more does God have to do in order to earn our trust? He's consistent. He's faithful. He's always there. His reputation is untarnished, unblemished, without sin, perfect. And so with that reputation, with God having done everything for us, without Him being a good Father who gives good gifts to His children, why would we not honor His name? Why would we ever speak badly about the one who has done it all for us? So the second commandment becomes more of an issue of viewing God in the right way, going back to the first commandment. And again, how all these commandments are linked to that first commandment is that if I remember who God is and what He has done for me, of course I'm going to keep His name holy. Of course I'm going to call upon Him in any need. Of course I'm going to pray to Him. Of course I'm going to praise Him. Of course I'm going to give thanks for what He's done for me. Because His reputation is that it deserves it. And so as His child, then not only do I come to Him and say, Father, what do you have for me? So I use His name, His reputation as a blessing on my life. As, hey, Father, what do you have for me today? But that also spills into the way I relate with other people. And this is where the first table of the law, those relating between us and God, the first through third commandments, and then 4 through 10, how I relate to my neighbor. This is the connecting point between the two. Because the way that we view God changes the way that we view, see, act, and relate with the people around us. The way we view God, His reputation, changes the way that I relate to other people. And so I get to this eighth commandment, and you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. Right? It's not just, hey, like you shouldn't say bad things, but the real question for us today is why? Why shouldn't I do this? And it goes back to reputation. And it's not just for the sake of your neighbor's reputation. You shouldn't tarnish their reputation. But there's really two main reasons why their reputation and the way that you relate to them is intimately related to the reputation of God. So the first thing is that we must view everyone in light of what God has done for them. So their reputation is because of God. So as we look at people, am I seeing them based on what they've done? Because if it's just based on their accomplishments or I think they need to earn it, we turn to this pretty quickly as well. Maybe I need to get myself ahead because it's all about achievement. So I'm going to say this about my neighbor. I'm going to say this about someone else. I'm going to spread this rumor. I'm going to share this gossip. Instead of recognizing it's all about Jesus and what He has done for us. And so if I look at people in light of the reputation of God, I see that they are someone who's been created by God. They are someone who has been bought at a price by Christ's precious blood. They are someone that is in need of grace, in need of forgiveness, in need of mercy, in need of hope. And so instead of spreading rumors about them, of bearing false testimony against them, I'm going to encourage them. I'm going to build them up. I'm going to do whatever I can to share the love of God, the reputation, the only thing that matters in this world, and do whatever I can to share that with them. So that's the first reason why this commandment just makes sense, is because we view people differently. Suddenly I don't care about sharing whatever happened in life. I care about sharing forgiveness with them. I care about sharing the reputation of a God who changes their story, who changes their circumstance, who has absolutely changed their life. So that's the first thing that's at stake is sharing with them who God is. And the second reason why this makes sense and why these are connected together is that as Christians, as followers of Christ, is that on a sub-level we carry with us the reputation of God. And this is absolutely key because if you look at this world, if you look at people, the way that they view the church, the reason so many people have a negative view of the church is because we have tarnished the reputation of God and His church in the sight of the world around us. We've absolutely clouded over the beautiful message of the gospel with our own ways, with trying to make it about our own reputation. You look at a guy like Mahatma Gandhi who said, I would love to be a Christian if I had ever met one. And so you see how oftentimes we get in the way. So the second thing that's at stake is not just our witness to the world in individual relationships with a neighbor and building and encouraging them, but we also follow God's reputation and we carry it with us. Is that as we are His hands and feet, people may see us and see our good deeds and praise our Father in heaven, as Christ says in Matthew. We see that as His children, we follow and we live out the same things that God's about. Now, as my son Benjamin gets older, one of the things that I want to teach him is the importance of the Metcalf name. And say this is our family name, and that when you put that name on a paper, when you put that in a signature on a contract, you honor that. When you put it on a work, something that you have done, you better be proud about that. When you give your guarantee, you give your word, that means something. That family name should carry some weight to it. And that is our reputation. And that's something that I want to build in not only my life, in my wife's life, in our kids' life, is that reputation that this is what we're known for. And it's the same thing with us as Christians, is what's our reputation? Is what's our reputation as people who follow God? Is our reputation more like God, of being people that show His love, that share His love, that live in light of His grace, that make mistakes but constantly turn back to Him? Or is our reputation people that just continually get in the way based on our own ego? And so as God's children, we live out this reputation by not only keeping God's name holy and calling upon Him for everything, but also that changes the way that we relate to other people. So God's blessings on you this week as you have a family discussion, as you live this out and talk about not only how can we call on the name of the Lord, how can we make Him the center of our family, the center of our home, the center of our life, but also what does it look like for us to build one another up? How can we encourage one another? How can we manage conflict? And how can we be shining witnesses and point to the reputation of the God who has done everything for us? Blessings on you this week.